Von Miller, 110.5 career sacks, 110 and a half career sacks, 8-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first team All-Pro, numerous forced fumbles in his career, 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, and arguably the greatest defensive Bronco in the greatest defender in Broncos history. Only arguably. Champ Bailey may be better. I'm not sure. I honestly prefer Von Miller, as much as I hate saying that, because Champ Bailey was a boss. But anyways, he was recently, or as of yesterday, traded to the Los Angeles Rams in exchange for a 2nd and a 3rd round pick, thus ending a prolific 10-year career in the Mile High City. Welcome to Roughing the Passer, the show where I talk football, miscellaneous stuff, and mostly football. I'm your host, Sam Ruffing, and that is right, Von Miller, star pass rusher, cornerstone, just great player, Hall of Famer, future Broncos Ring of Famer, was traded yesterday, just out of the blue, after a win against Washington. But before we get on to that, have you considered subscribing to Roughing the Passer, a show that is both highly controversial and I'd hopefully entertaining? If you haven't subscribed, I highly recommend it. It's free. You don't have to watch my videos. I just want the subs and the likes and the comments, but you don't have to watch it unless you want to like and comment. But anyways, this starts Roughing the Passer's countdown to Christmas starts now. We have 53 days. Yes, I am very sorry. I know it was just Halloween. Alright. My reaction when I heard the news that Von Miller was traded to the LA Rams was shock and disappointment. Shock because I didn't think it was ever going to happen. I didn't know that GM George Payton was, bold enough to trade such a cornerstone. And not that this was a bad trade. That's not why I'm disappointed. I mean, he's a 32-year-old coming off an injury who was on the last year of his contract and was kind of pricey. Now, granted, the Broncos are paying all his salary in LA basically, but still. I mean, it's not a bad trade, honestly. No, the more disappointing news because the Broncos just beat Washington. They're 4-4 now, and when you're a Bronco and when your team wins for the first time in a while, you start to think that maybe, just maybe, with players getting healthy, you can turn around the season and make the playoffs after such a sluggish start. Because I watched the highlights because I couldn't get the game. It was rough. But also, the defense played hard for the first time in forever. Granted, it was against Washington. Although I did hear about the final series, and you don't just fumble twice. Not good. But after this trade, my hopes and dreams of a Broncos playoff are not exactly dashed, but mostly dashed. The Broncos are now looking at a rebuild. And that just stinks. And it all could have been avoided. But before I continue with why this could have been avoided, I would just like to say to anyone who says the Broncos wasted Von Miller's career, is that you are partially right. They wasted his prime, but not his career. Von Miller's career in Denver has been, he started out as the 2nd overall pick in 2011 behind quarterback Cam Newton. And he went on to, sack Cam Newton in the Super Bowl 2.5 times, including 2 forced fumbles, and win Super Bowl MVP. But, he started out his rookie year with the Tim Tebow year. The year Tebow came in, was one of the worst statistical quarterbacks, and led the Broncos to the playoffs and a playoff wildcard win over the Steelers, and maybe the greatest overtime play of all ever. It was fantastic. amazing. What a way to start your career. And then, after that season, they ended up with Peyton Manning for 4 years. He won the MVP in 2013, Peyton Manning did. He got the Broncos to 2 Super Bowls, won 1, and was, making Miller and co. a consistent contender for 4 straight years. It was amazing. And then, at the end of that, he won a Super Bowl. At the end of, at the end of Peyton Manning's run, they won a Super Bowl 50 over Carolina Panthers, and it was fantastic. Von Miller was Super Bowl MVP. He destroyed the Panthers almost single-handedly. And how many defenders get to do that? I mean, the defenders you can compare to Von Miller in the league right now are Aaron Donald and J.J. Watt. And Khalil Mack. Those are like the 3 for Von Miller's prime that you can compare him to. Granted, T.J. Watt and they never won Super Bowls. Those 3 never won Super Bowls. Von Miller did. And it's just, you can't say he wasted his career when you get Super Bowls like that. I mean, that's not a guarantee. I mean, sure, there are great defenders in his era who have won Super Bowls, like Chandler Jones and Shaq Barrett, who was won with the Broncos and the Buccaneers. Fletcher Cox. Obviously, there's some, but otherwise, Von Miller got a Super Bowl when the 3 other great pass rushers didn't. So that's not wasting any of his career. And I will admit, the last 5 years have been absolutely horrible for Denver. And Von Miller, they didn't even sniff the playoffs, except in 2016. But other than that, he got injured 1 year. And it's a shame, but he's moving on to a better place now. He's going to the Rams, where he's going to dominate with Aaron Donald. Also, Von Miller and Aaron Donald on the same team is just mind-blowingly amazing. And what bugs me is this year, I'll admit, was wasted. Because, oh boy, this team, it all started back way back when, at the beginning of 2021, when John Elway stepped down from general manager as a scapegoat for the Broncos' horrible 5-11 season. And they brought in George Paton. He's not the problem, sort of. And they kept Vic Fangio and Pat Shurmur, which still boggles my mind because they are just terrible coaches. Now, granted, for Pat Shurmur's sake, I'll give him that, quarterback play hasn't been great. He's also been a huge part of that. But he also got Daniel Jones to play really well in his rookie year. So, Pat Shurmur knows something anyways. So they saddled, George Paton, general manager, was saddled with Vic Fangio and Pat Shurmur and that coaching staff. And so in the draft, because Vic Fangio's already on the hot seat, George Paton's like, you know what? We have the number 9 overall pick. Who do you want? This is your last year. See if you can turn things around. And he says, I presume this is speculation, that he says he wants Patrick Surtain, the second cornerback out of Alabama. Great player, great pick, except for the fact that Mac Jones, Patriots quarterback right now, who's just beat the Chargers and is looking scarily similar to Tom Brady in his rookie year because he checks it down all the time and has terrible stats. Oh yeah, and he's incredibly smart. It's annoying. And Justin Fields, who's not looking good right now but has huge upside, was also there, and they skipped on them. And then they didn't draft a quarterback. They traded for Teddy Bridgewater, so you thought maybe, just maybe they believed in Drew Lock and they thought he was going to start and become a great quarterback, develop him, but no. In the offseason, they, for some reason, and yes, I understand why. I get the reasoning for Teddy Bridgewater. I hated the move. I'm looking more right and right as the days go by. Started Teddy Bridgewater over Drew Lock, which made no sense because he had fewer interceptions in camp, Drew Lock did. and he was better with the starting offense and in preseason, so whatever. After that, so they went with Teddy Bridgewater to start the year. They went 3-0 to start, and they lost 4 games and just won this game. And Teddy Bridgewater has not won a single game against a good opponent. An opponent, you'd say, or a decent opponent like Cleveland. He's just lost. He can't win big games. He's holding this team back. So are the coaches. And if you look at the talent the Broncos had this year with Bradley Chubb, Jerry Jeudy, Von Miller, KJ Hamler, the O-line, Garrett Bowles was playing well. Noah Fant was supposed to be great. He isn't now. Alberto is good, but he got injured. They got rid of Phillip Lindsay. And the defense, yes, was supposed to be fantastic, but they got injured. And now they're sitting at 4-4. It was supposed to be a great year, but no, they blew it because they started a different quarterback. But that's not even where I'm at. What makes me mad is that they're trading Von Miller to the Rams, who have Matthew Stafford. Matt Stafford. You know who could have traded for Matt Stafford? A quarterback who was lighting it up, who is an MVP candidate, who is just unbelievably good in LA, and I so wish Denver had him. Denver. Like, why? All the Lions wanted was a first, a third, and Drew Lock. You give them that, you get your quarterback of the future, since apparently it really seems like they don't like Drew Lock, especially after not starting him when Teddy Bridgewater has gone 0-4 and has been injured. So if you weren't going to draft a quarterback, and you weren't going to play Drew Lock, why on earth would you trade for Teddy Bridgewater, who is a career backup now, a good backup, but a backup, and then just not, instead of just getting Matt Stafford, who looked fantastic. And I know and with the second and third, you that you got for Von Miller, you better be trading for Russell Wilson in the offseason, or you better find your franchise quarterback. Just another wasted year in Denver. This has been Roughing the Passer. I am happy for Von Miller. I hope he wins the Super Bowl, assuming the Broncos don't make it. And, well, on the bright side, after they face the Cowboys this week, Vic Fangio and Pat Shurmur could be fired if they lose, since the Broncos would be going in their bye week, and Teddy Bridgewater would be benched, most likely. Then they got to face the Eagles, and I think the Chiefs after that, so you could turn around the season. But congrats to Von Miller on a stellar Broncos career. You will be missed severely. And have a wonderful day, everybody. This has been Roughing the Passer.